My name is Marcus, and I'm the Community Engagement Strategist for HWYPS Youth and Prevention Services. Here at HWYPS, we offer life-saving services to our youth in the LGBTQ community, advocacy, and homelessness. Here in the clubhouse at YPS, we offer a variety of different services for those in our community, whether it be free clothes donated by those of us in our community in our local areas, food, games, and sexual contraceptives. We specialize in harm reduction, helping those in need reduce the harm within themselves and make sure that they're using safely. In honor of National Coming Out Day, we have curated a series of videos and interviews where local individuals are going to share their stories of coming out. We understand that these coming out stories may be hard for a lot of us, and we all have moments where we don't feel sure to share our stories. But these individuals were brave enough to be honest with us and share their stories with you.
My name is Izzy Corazon. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, now residing in Brooklyn, New York. 28 years old. My pronouns are he, him, and I identify as a gay man. Today I'm here to talk to you about my coming out story, which was not that far, but quite a few years ago. In around 2007, I was a sophomore in high school, my freshman year. I was doing everything possible to kind of be a man. So I was on the football team. I was doing all these things to kind of showcase like all the things that I wanted to do or prove my macho-ness. And a year later, I was able to finally explore myself and really understand that I might be questioning my sexuality. And during that time, there was somebody that I knew that I really admired. I think when queer people see each other, there's this like attraction that we have, that we want to understand each other, we see each other, and we don't understand where exactly it comes from. But let's say this person's name's BJ for the sake of the story. BJ was not necessarily out, but was being questioned throughout school, and was somebody that I felt comfortable with and could talk to. So I finally worked up the courage to like talk to them about possibly going to Six Flags with me, because my mom used to work at Howard University, and there would be a appreciation day at Six Flags, and so I decided to bring him on there for that. During this whole time, we're riding roller coasters, we're meeting people from different schools, and here I was kind of like nervous and like really unsure of like how to tell this person that I might be gay. I don't think I had even said it myself at that point. I was really just knew that something was different about me and knew that there was something that I needed to get off my chest. And I felt like this was the only person that could really understand me at that time. So we went through all these rides, and I was like, we're getting food, we're doing all these things. And like the roller coaster rides that day, I just felt like a wave of things kind of crashing down at the same time. And I kind of pulled him to the side as the day was kind of ending, and I was like, hey BJ, I think I have something to tell you. I think I'm gay. And all they could do was really hug me and be happy. And I've never been so at ease at one point. And that all kind of shifted a little bit later just because we were with my parents. And so not being fully out and not really comfortable yet, we shifted into our normal modes of code switching, of being these people that we thought we were. And feeling like we had to be someone specific. So when we got into the car, we drove over to his boyfriend's place, and then we dropped him off. He gave me a big hug, and I just felt so relieved. Unfortunately, a couple days later, as we're coming out from school and we're like having a whole conversation, clearly we got really close in a short amount of time. We're on our way, he's talking to his boyfriend. I know of their boyfriend, but they know of me as well, but they don't necessarily know that I'm gay or have come out, from my knowledge at least. So as we're walking, I'm dropping him off at his lifeguarding job, I have this whole conversation with him about how his boyfriend wants to talk to me and talk about my coming out or having a possible threesome. And that was one of the things that I was so caught off guard. And I wasn't sure how to feel about it at the time. I think I was really shocked. And so I just literally dropped everything and kind of rushed home. That's a 4-mile walk, and I definitely walked that the fastest that day. I don't think I've ever been that, I guess, not necessarily upset, but just so unsure or betrayed. And it just was one of the first things, especially coming out, which kind of like threw me off for a loop. Along with this, like a little bit later on, I kind of had a similar situation that dealt with the same person, BJ. BJ was now one of the people that would either be targeted or seen as someone that was queer in our school, and so he would always be constantly picked out. And since I was associated with this person, I would also be picked out of the crowd too. This all came to head roughly about a couple months later, in around 2008, where these group of kids who I used to play football with and who were also on the basketball team decided to make a page that was resonated towards emasculating men altogether. On this page, my picture popped up as the third round, and all I saw was my face plastered and then a stream of comments saying, "This person is super gay. I don't know why they're hiding. I don't know why they can't come out. Why are they hiding everything?" And just my sexuality questioned in front of the whole school. And this was like as Facebook was becoming more of a thing for high school kids. And to watch that at like 8 p.m. at night while you have school going on, while you're coming home from practice, was really weird for me. I didn't know how to associate it. I didn't know what to feel. I think I kind of just disassociated at that point in time. And with everything that was happening, I kind of just sat in my corner and was just like, I don't know what to say. So I decided that on Facebook, before this was our space to like kind of express ourselves, right? So at that point, I decided to take it into my own hands and decided to use Facebook as a way to be like, dispel all the rumors and let everyone know that I am gay. This didn't reach that many people, but it reached enough people at school where it was noticed and it was taken into account. And so I will say that rest of that year, I became ostracized. A lot of my friends that I've known since I was like maybe 5 or 8 stopped talking to me. And they were mostly male friends, and a lot of people that I was associated with prior. So like people I used to play football with, people I used to do like the plays with, all kind of just abruptly stopped talking to me. It took me a minute. It took me a while to kind of get to center, from being almost forced out the closet. And at the time, cyberbullying wasn't really a label at the time, and I didn't even think of it as cyberbullying. I thought that it was just kids being mean. And so it hits me harder now, I think, than I thought it did. I think at that point I was on survival mode and really just trying to like, let's just finish school. We don't like it here anyway. No one understands me, so I'm just gonna make it through. And not all coming out stories have a beautiful, happy ending, but most coming out stories do make you stronger. And most, when you come out, you can finally actually be yourself, which soon led me to be understanding myself fully and wanting to know who I am and wanting to understand where I come from and where I belong. But yeah, coming out is its own thing, and everyone has their own story.
My name is Lee. I'm 29 years old. My pronouns are she, her, and I identify as bisexual. And my coming out story is very gradual. I didn't really fully come out to myself until I was around 21 years old. And a lot of my experiences leading up to that revelation were a very slow build. So I'd say I realized I probably wasn't straight when I was around 14. But at the time, that was in the early 2000s, and bisexual representation was not so hot at the time. It was, there was a lot of reality television that really sensationalized bisexuality as this promiscuous, sort of predatory, not very real sexuality, which was a bummer because it is a very valid sexual identity to have. But at the time, I had internalized this idea that I basically wasn't allowed to identify as bisexual because it wasn't a real sexuality, and it was either, I think Sex and the City called it a layover on the way to gay town, which I internalized and was like, okay, well, I'm either gay or I'm straight and I've got to pick one. So I used that term loosely, to be straight for my middle and high school days, but I knew somewhere inside that that wasn't the right identity for me. And I remember telling a doctor at one point that I was quote unquote straight until proven otherwise, which was silly because you don't have to earn your sexual identity, but I digress. So I went through high school identifying as straight until proven otherwise. And then when I hit college, my younger sister, who is 3 years younger than I am, came out to my parents as bisexual. So I started talking to my younger sister about how she came to terms with her sexuality and how she realized that she was bisexual. And she said something that I thought was really helpful and I hadn't heard before. But basically she was like, well, I mean, how did you know that you liked guys before you ever kissed a guy? How did you know that that was something you wanted to explore? She was like, it's the same thing with any other gender. Women, non-binary people, whoever, like if you want to kiss them, that's how you know. And it was pretty straightforward, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that pretty much settles it for me. I'm probably bisexual. I was bisexual. So I came out more or less to my sister during that conversation when I was around, let's see if she was 17. I was 20, 21, something like that. And it was really helpful for me feeling comfortable and confident in my sexual identity for the first time ever, because I really couldn't talk about it with my friends. I just didn't feel safe telling, particularly my friends who weren't straight guys, basically, because I was worried that they would perceive me as predatory or like something to worry about, because I somehow was no longer this neutral, not straight territory, I guess, for the lack of a better way of putting it. But anyway, so by the end of college, I was maybe turning 22 and really suddenly felt very confident in my sexual identity as a bisexual, because I'd started taking a lot of queer literature classes in college, which I'm very, very lucky to have had access to. The internet was suddenly a much more queer-friendly space, or rather I found queer-friendly corners of the internet to really help bring me to a new understanding of my sexual identity, which I did not have access to when I was younger, and that was really amazing. And then by the end of college, I felt confident enough to tell my mom that I was bisexual. And the conversation was very nonchalant. My mom was super curious and still remains curious and excited about learning about sexual identity, gender identity, and we have ongoing conversations about this stuff, which is really amazing, and I feel very supported by my mom in that regard. And I did tell my dad a few years ago, I'd say I was maybe 23, and I'm 29 now. I might have been 24, but regardless, I did tell my dad over the phone. I just felt like it was the right time. I've spent a long time thinking, oh, my dad doesn't need to know, like, why would I invite him into that part of my life? But there's still a little kid inside of me that wanted a sense of connection over this big part of my identity that I was coming to terms with. And I love my dad very much, but it just wasn't a conversation that he seemed to really want to have, and I dropped the subject, and we haven't really talked about it since. But that being said, I'm super grateful that I have a really huge community of queer friends now, and that has been my saving grace throughout all of this and learning more about myself. And living in New York in particular has been really amazing. I moved here when I was 23, and I've just been continuing to meet amazing, wonderful queer people, and a lot of my friend circle that I grew up with has also since come out as queer, so it's been a cool journey for sure. Yeah.
My preferred names are David Ukre. I identify as he, him, they, whatever fits at the place and time, and my sexual orientation is gay. I was born in Nigeria, in West Africa, where homosexuality isn't talked about. It's a taboo to disclose about your sexuality. What it means to be a taboo is that it's not spoken about. It's seen as evil, and most people would kind of connect it to family problems and all of that. So that's how homosexuality is viewed in Africa, in Nigeria, where I come from. As a child, I've always knew I was gay from a very young age, and subconsciously I've lived a kind of life where I would ponder at a very young age, ponder what would happen when people found out I was gay, That made me miss a lot in my childhood growing up, because I couldn't do the things that I love to do. I used to be very, very feminine, and growing up, it's one of those things, one of those traits where if you're found very feminine, your families or your brothers, your sisters, whoever are closer to you, sometimes they take really harsh measures to be able to address that situation. In my case, sometimes I was beaten, I was hit, just because of how I, sometimes how I would dress or how I acted as a child. However, that made me grow a tough skin, and subconsciously I have been able to, navigate my way around my sexuality from a very young age. I was in a boarding school all my life, and what that meant for me was, always hiding who I was as a human being, because most cases, right, it didn't look like I fit into the box or into the spectrum. Sometimes people called me names, because I was so feminine, so they called me names like a woman rapper. So in Africa, there's this long, it's like a skirt that the ladies tie. It's like, that's how they dress. They tie it around their waist, and I was addressed as a woman rapper growing up, and that really affected my mood as a child, affected me growing up as a child, because each time there was a gathering, it's either someone is going to be talking about my sexuality, or someone's going to be talking about how I looked, or how I was standing, or how I was sitting down. So subconsciously, I tried to make sure that when I was out in the public or when I was out in the open, I did things that seemed normal to people, because I was told that the life I was living, it's not normal. So I would do things that deemed normal to the society. That affected me a whole lot, because it affected the way I learned, it affected the way I socialized with people, and it affected the way, I even grew up as a child. That's that with my childhood. However, I was able to navigate myself and my life through college, and now I found myself in the US. Okay, my sexuality is one of the main reasons why I am in the US today, because in Nigeria, it's an abomination to be gay, and one would go to jail for 11 years once convicted, right? Not everyone is able to make it to court or even to the police cell. Sometimes the public would carry out jungle justice, and I know of a bunch of people who have been killed, who have lost their lives, who have been beaten just because of what they identify as or who they are as a human. That has affected me psychologically, mentally. When I came to the US, I started living my life, and subconsciously as well, I was trying to make sure that no one could identify me as a gay man. So I would do, things that I would dress almost much more like a straight man, and I would, my lifestyle was almost becoming of that of a straight man, because it's something I'm borrowing. I'm trying to be something I'm not. However, while I came to the US, I had the opportunity to live my best life. I fell in love, right? So I got married. It was an amazing time in my life where I felt like, oh my goodness, all of these childhood memories of getting married to someone who's gonna love me and getting married to a same-sex gender was all I've always wanted. And seeing all of this, seeing myself accomplish this was very fulfilling, and was all I've always wanted. However, that day, that whole getting married turned to be, a situation whereby it turned to be heartbroken for me, because for some reason, someone I do not know till date felt it was okay to sell out my story to the Nigerian press. Remember, mind you, one would go to jail for 11 years, right, if they're convicted of homosexuality. So that's something that broke me up. How would you give out my story, something that's really, really sensitive? Why would you sell it out to the press, right? What would that do for you? Meanwhile, I've always kept my sexuality, my life private. I'm not someone who will come out and say, hey, I'm not exposed because of my family. I'm the last of 7. So what that means is that growing up in a home, a very big home like as that, my family, we come from a very religious background. So in Africa, right, as a last child, I'm not able to say nothing. I do not have a choice, right? It's always what the elders want. The elders, or my older family members, or my elder brothers and sisters, they had the final say. I didn't have any say. However, this kept me, kept me holding back, because I wouldn't want a situation where people will still find out that I'm still gay, and it's going to be a problem. So while the story was sold out to the Nigerian press, that really took the best of me, because it affected me mentally, right? So I had some moments where I was suffering from depression. Previously, before this whole incident, I was diagnosed with PTSD, so that was a trigger for me, and it just broke me down. It broke me down. Something that was supposed to be the best day of my life ended up to be, one of the worst days, because it reminded me of my childhood again. What am I gonna do? What would happen when people found out I'm gay? However, nothing happened. No one died. No one had a heart attack. My mom did not die. My father did not die because of them hearing I'm gay. However, it changed the relationship I have with my parents. My father, until he died in 2020, we did not speak for 3 years. So he was so upset, and he felt I have let him down. But I know I did not let anybody down. I'm living my best life. I'm able to do the things I do for my community, for myself and my community. While the relationship with my father got soured, right? My mom's relationship too got soured, but the good thing is I was able to make amends with my family, let them know that this is who I am, I cannot live someone else's life, I had a conversation with my mom where she came and said, I'm gonna ask you this question for the last time. Is this who you really are? And that broke my heart, because I said to her, I said, I'm your child, and you gave birth to me, right? If there's anything wrong with me, you should be able to tell. But after we had that conversation, I will tell you that changed everything. She says, according to her, and I would repeat this, she says she loves me for who I am, and she really, really respects me. That has changed everything. At this point, right, I do not care about what people think about me, right? As long as I'm able to live my life, that's all that matters. I'm able to live my life without hiding my sexuality, without hiding who I really am. I can choose to be feminine, I can choose to be masculine. It's just all about me now. So that meaning to say is that I'm glad I'm able to live my life, although it took me a while to be able to come out. I did not intend to come out to the public how it did, but that situation has changed my life. It made me more free to be who I am and to live my life. And I don't have anything to say to whoever sold the story, but what I want to say is that has given me the opportunity to become my best person. Once I'm able to accept the fact that my story is out there, everyone knows I'm gay, I feel fulfilled. I feel like the burden has been lifted from me. No one should no one should be in a dilemma where they have to choose between acting or between being their real self, or trying to pretend to the world, acting like they're something that is not. So what I'm saying is that that whole episode of someone giving out my story to the press made me a better person, and it made me a stronger person. I hope the story motivates you and inspires you to live your best life. I want to say thank you to HWYPS Youth and Prevention Services for this amazing opportunity to be out there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lee, and I hope that by sharing my story today, I help other people understand that bisexuality is a valid sexual identity. Thank you so much, HWYPS, for letting me tell my story today.
I hope by telling my coming out story, situations like Nigel Shelby won't happen again. I know it's been 10 years since I've come out, but situations where suicide is apparent and people still get bullied online and people still have issues, I really want people to come into this world with grace and kindness, and hopefully that coming out isn't such a big deal, that coming out is just a way of life in the way that we move, and loving someone is just loving someone versus having to burden this feeling of being an outcast or feeling like you don't belong. And I really want to appreciate HWYPS YPS for letting us tell this story today and to go into our coming out stories. I think this is really important.